Friday lightning round poll, and this week Gibson Guitar Raid won with 55% of your votes. We're back now with a panel. Steve, what do you make of these federal agents raiding Gibson, especially when some of its competitors here in the U.S. use that exact same rare wood?
Yeah, well, you want to know why people have a low opinion of the federal government. This is exactly why. This is the kind of thing that you can take conspiracy theorists who are out on the fringes and prove them right when you have something like this. Look, what's happening with Gibson now is they're in effect trying to get Gibson on this obscure provision of the Lacey Act, which requires companies to know what foreign laws are and to know that they're not violating them. And in addition to all of that, you have the double standard that they're going after Gibson, which happens to be run by a Republican, and not going after companies that have done the same thing. It reeks.
David.
You know, I don't believe conspiracy theories that suggest they went after him because he's a Republican, because if the government was smart enough to do that, imagine everything else they'd get right. But I do think it doesn't help the president, who's trying to appeal to independent voters, conservative Democrats, that he goes after another successful company, and it reminds me of the NLRB suit against Boeing. They're trying to open a plant and employ thousands of people, and it's just not good for his image.
Charles?
It's also sort of ironic and a contradiction. Here he is, he gives a speech last night where he's going to throw another $500 billion at jobs, and his agencies are running around destroying the jobs or threatening them with that ruling on Boeing, with the ruling, the EPA essentially shutting down oil exploration. They've attempted to shut down part of our coal industry in a regulation that was suspended. But either you favor jobs or you don't, and I think this is another example of job-destroying actions by the federal government.
Speaking of jobs, Steve, President Obama went on the road today to Virginia to sell his jobs plan that he unveiled last night. More reaction from Republicans. Your take the day after on the jobs plan and prospects for passage?
It's a tough sell because every time he gives the speech, he's admitting a policy failure. He's admitting that what he's tried thus far hasn't worked. I think the real outrage is punting to the super committee, that he's asking the super committee to come up with the additional savings to actually finance this. I mean, what's he going to do next? Ask the super committee to handle the budget? Why not give the super committee everything that's politically difficult to do? It's a real punt.
Dave.
This was all about trying to change the narrative that he's a weak leader who hasn't produced results. I think if he gives a speech like this 6 months into his administration, given where the economy was, maybe it gets him somewhere. I think today the best he can hope for is that independents and other hopeful voters will give him a if you get me results, then maybe I'll like it. I'll give you a chance to produce. But other than that, I don't think it does him good at this point.
Does Congress pass any of it?
Congress may pass parts of it, but you know, I think the thing to understand is that they don't think it's ultimately going to solve the problem, so they won't be enthusiastic about it.
Charles.
What struck me was his abuse of the majesty of that setting. A joint address of Congress is something that FDR did on the day after Pearl Harbor to ask for a declaration of war on Imperial Japan. It's a place where LBJ asked for a Civil Rights Act, and here it's a place where Obama used it as a kickoff of his own re-election campaign. Quite a difference.
Folks are still talking about Rick Perry, the Texas governor's comments in the presidential debate this week comparing Social Security to a Ponzi scheme. Mitt Romney is going after Perry as if he thinks that this was a big political gaffe. Is it?
It's a defensible comparison, I think, but may not have been wise. Look, there are similarities between a Ponzi scheme and Social Security. Ponzi scheme is voluntary. Social Security is not, however. And both are based on accounting gimmicks. Neither is sustainable. So I think it's a defensible comparison.
As often in politics, Chris, it's not exactly what you say, but how you say it that matters. I think that Rick Perry needs to focus, particularly if he's going to win the nomination and be the general election candidate, on saving and preserving Social Security as he talks about what's wrong with it, because there's a lot of voters in Florida that he's going to need, and if he scares them because of this, it's a potential problem.
Charles.
It's a classic example of the Washington gaffe, which is when a politician accidentally speaks the truth. It is a Ponzi scheme, but you aren't allowed to say it, and I think he's going to have to learn that it has to be unsaid, and he has to say, I support it, and I'm not going to attack it.
All right, less than a minute left. Big story. The NFL season began yesterday with the Green Bay Packers' big victory over the New Orleans Saints. I want to get all of your Super Bowl picks. Nobody can pick somebody that another person has picked. I will start. I'll pick the Green Bay Packers. Steve, who do you want to pick?
How can you do that? That's a total setup.
I've been waiting all
that
day
is a
to
total setup. It could be the Philadelphia Eagles, but I think they'll lose in the NFC Championship to the Green Bay Packers.
You can pick the Green. I know you love the Green Bay Packers. I know you're a cheesehead. I just wanted to mess with your hat.
You know,
David.
I'm from Los Angeles. They took all of my teams. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh because James Harrison is really upset that he didn't win last year, and I think he might get it done.
Another gotcha question. Houston Texans.
Are you nuts? The Washington Redskins. The Washington Redskins will do it. There you see it. And that's as close, that graphic, as the Washington Redskins will get to the Super Bowl that year. That's it for the panel. But stay tuned for the final critique of this week's Republican presidential debate.